Robin Williams is considered one of the greatest improvisational comedians of all time. Better than almost anybody, he is able to capture the magic that exists on the day, to stumble onto something unplanned and make something incredibly funny out of it. And when I was studying him for a podcast that I was doing about Robin, I was trying to understand how he's able to do that. And part of it, of course, is just the fact that Robin is a one of one. You're not going to be able to recreate it. But he said something in this 1989 Esquire interview about how he captures the magic that completely changed how I think about improv. So in 1989, Robin had actually stopped touring as a stand-up comedian. He was becoming a movie star at this point. He'd had big hits with movies like Good Morning Vietnam, Dead Poets Society, and so he'd stopped touring so he could focus on his film career. But he still would go to stand-up comedy clubs late at night as a way of just to release energy. He called it playing. And Esquire decided to do a profile on him in 1989, and instead of going with him to his latest movie set, instead they decided they were going to follow him around to these clubs he was going to late at night. So they followed him around for 2 nights. And in the piece, he's talking about how his goal on stage is to capture those magical moments, to find those things that were unplanned. That's not to say that he didn't have a plan. He had material when he would go on stage that he would fall back on, but what he was seeking when he was on stage was those opportunities to do something unplanned, to be fully present right there with the audience, where they're right there with you, where this divine source is flowing through you and you're just riffing. And the reporter who'd followed Robin around for a couple of days at this point was well, how often do you enter into that state? Over the last couple days, how many times did it happen? And they'd probably watch Robin perform for 4 or 5 hours collectively at this point. And Robin thought about it and he was probably 5 minutes. And that might seem crazy, right? 5 hours on stage for maybe 5 minutes of gold. Why didn't Robin go on stage and just try to improv the whole thing? And it was asking myself that question that I realized and changed my perception on what you need to do to capture the magic. And I think that the reason Robin was able to capture those 5 minutes of bliss was because he'd had a bunch of great material that he'd already rehearsed. The best stuff is the stuff that is unrehearsed, but you can't actually identify it unless you have great material that you've already rehearsed. Let me explain. With his rehearsed material, Robin knows the reaction he's going to get from the audience. It's safe material. But when he goes out on a limb, when he takes a risk and he gets a reaction from the audience, he's able to tell, he's able to feel if their response to this improv is greater than the response he was getting to his rehearsed material, the material that he knows works. And so when he goes out on a limb and he takes that risk and he gets a good reaction from the audience, he knows to run down that tangent. Versus if he had no rehearsed material and he just came on stage and tried to improv the whole time, he would have nothing to compare the audience reaction to. He wouldn't know what the right tangents to go down were and what the wrong tangents to not go down were. And so while the unrehearsed material is often the best stuff, you need the rehearsed material in order to be able to identify what paths to run down.